What's up, YouTube? Haven't done these in a long time. This is a weekend review for this past weekend's boxing, and it was a busy day for boxing. August 14th was a very busy day for boxing. You had, many fights. The main fight that everyone was looking forward to was for the WBO Bantamweight title, the bout between Guillermo Rigondeaux and John Riel Casimero. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. This I'm gonna call a weekend review, talk boxing episode 1. Tap in, tap in. Now let's review and recap the Guillermo Rigondeaux John Riel Casimero fight that happened at Carson, California. Now, if you're a boxing fan, if you're a hardcore boxing fan, you already know what to expect when you are getting ready to watch a Guillermo Rigondeaux fight. And for the casuals, that is not a fight that's fan friendly for you anytime Rigondeaux steps in the ring. I don't care if he steps in there with a very active fighter who has a fan friendly style. He's got the technicality and the skills and the footwork and all of that to make it a boring fight, and he's gonna make his opponent fight his type of fight, making his opponent chase him, and it's just not gonna be a pretty fight for the fans and for his opponents. So you cannot expect so much from a Rigondeaux fight if you're looking for action. But I was looking forward to this fight because it's a highly competitive championship level fight, and this fight, was very boring, like expected. I had the fight score 115-113. The results were that John Riel Casimero was able to secure the win and retain his WBO Bantamweight title. And yeah, I had a 115-113 in favor of Casimero. I don't know how one of the judges scored it for Rigondeaux because he did not do enough at all in the fight. Throughout all 12 rounds of the fight, he was using his footwork, and yes, Rigondeaux has one of the best footwork in the sport. No question about it. Even at his age, he's almost at 40 years old. If not, he might be 40 years old. Yet, he still has one of the best footworks in the game. And technically, he is still up there as one of the most technically sound fighters at 118 pounds. And I'm telling you right now, the lineal bantamweight champion Naoya Inoue does not want that smoke with Rigondeaux. Stylistically, it's a nightmare for him, and it's a difficult fight for anybody in the sport to fight Rigondeaux at 118 pounds. I'm telling you right now, if you're looking to come up and gain fans or to gain a pretty impressive win, Rigondeaux is not the opponent for any champion or any up and coming prospect in the sport to fight. He is what you call a high risk, low reward fighter, and nobody wants that action with Rigondeaux. And that's just unfortunately how the way it is. It's not fair, but it is what it is. So shout out to John Riel Casimero for taking on this big challenge and actually winning this fight. Like I said, the whole fight, this was a CompuBox nightmare. Um, Rigondeaux, like I said, was just using this fancy fast footwork to run circles around the ring. Casimero trying to cut off the ring, and that's something he could work on. But I think fighting someone like Rigondeaux really will help him in the future, um, because now he knows how to cut off the ring better by fighting someone who is so hard to cut off the ring against in Rigondeaux. And yeah, this helped him gain experience, and the dream fight that everyone wants to see at 118 pounds is the unification title fight between John Riel Casimero and the lineal champion who won the Muhammad Ali trophy, and that's Naoya Inoue. But I don't think that fight's gonna happen anytime soon. I think Top Rank and ESPN is trying to build Inoue up to reach his full potential and reach that superstar height in America, and having him in there with opponents that make him look good stylistically. They're at the building stages right now. And John Riel Casimero, he's not a top draw. He did not partake in the Super Series World Boxing Tournament when they was having a tournament for the Muhammad Ali trophy at 118 pounds. I don't know. I think he might have been fighting at 115 pounds back then. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on it. That was some time ago. But this fight was scheduled for August 14th instead of it being John Riel Casimero and Rigondeaux like it happened this past Saturday. It was actually supposed to be a title unification bout between the WBO champion, as y'all know, John Riel Casimero, and the WBC champion, Nonito Donaire. But then they couldn't come to an agreement when it came to the drug testing. That's why Nonito Donaire backed out. I don't know. That's a big mega fight between two fellow countrymen and two fellow champions at the same weight class, two different generations. I was thinking it was going to be a passing of the torch. I still favor John Riel to win that fight. Hopefully they make that fight happen for John Riel's next immediate fight sometime next year in 2022. That's going to be a big fight. And no, Nonito Donaire, man, don't sleep on him. Y'all saw what he did against Ubali. I wasn't expecting such an early stoppage win for the old man Donaire, and I don't even want to call him that because he showed even in the finals for the Super Series tournament against Naoya Inoue. Donaire was the one to drag Inoue to the deep waters. That's still the toughest fight of Inoue's career, and he did that at in his late 30s, and that goes to show you, man, age ain't nothing but a number. Donaire was able to turn the clock like how Pacquiao did against Thurman. I don't think he could pull it off against John Riel, but we'll see. Hopefully they come to an agreement when it comes to that whole drug testing thing, and they're able to make that mega fight happen sometime next year. And then after that, then maybe we could get into talks about having a real undisputed unification title fight at 118 pounds with the winner of the John Riel Nonito Donaire fight taking on Inoue to unify all the titles at 118 pounds. That's one of the most exciting divisions when it comes to the sport. And like I said, Rigondeaux, as far as his future goes, I think he's still going to be one of the gatekeepers, and all the champions are going to try and avoid him, and the up and comers not going to want to fight him either. But he's gonna have opponents, like I said, being the gatekeeper of those of that division at 118 pounds. He could also fight at super bantamweight 122, but I don't know. He might even retire. Who knows? Because he's always had throughout his career trouble finding opponents and shit. No, but like I said, that's someone you want to have on your resume, but it doesn't do too much for you as far as gaining fans. But it's still an impressive name to have on your resume if you're able to win against Rigondeaux, which is very hard. Anyways, moving on to the next fight. We're going to talk about the Joshua Franco, Andrew Moloney, the trilogy fight. Now, the third fight answered everything. I know the second fight was controversial because of the no contest, no decision. It happened due to a questionable accidental headbutt, and I think they only fought for 2 rounds, and they said, okay, yeah, because Joshua Franco's eye was shut, they called it a no contest. But the first fight, Joshua Franco won, and then because of the controversy in the second fight, Moloney was winning the fight. And you could also think because of the shut eye that Joshua Franco suffered during the second fight. But Moloney was looking like he was the better fighter that night. So the third fight happened, but all questions were answered. Joshua Franco was able to get a well-deserved unanimous decision win over the game Andrew Moloney. Now, he's the WBA regular super flyweight champion, Joshua Franco. And this one put him in line to challenge the winner of another trilogy fight, and that's the third fight between Estrada and Chocolatito. That's happening in October. As y'all know, they fought earlier this year, and they fight of the year. Type fight is still up there for being one of the best, most entertaining fights of this year thus far. And yeah, Joshua Franco is next in line, man. A young dude from Texas that a lot of people could get behind. Fan-friendly style he has. So yeah, I mean, I know especially in America, there's not a lot of eyes and coverage when it comes to the lighter weight classes. It's always been that way. The lighter weight classes don't get as much attention and attraction as the heavier weight classes, but this is where the action is at. Like I said, if 118 pounds is a competitive weight class in the sport, 115 pound also is a very well competitive, entertaining, exciting, one of the best weight classes in the sport. And yeah, Joshua Franco, man, he's next in line to challenge for the lineal 115-pound title list. Everyone's looking forward to the trilogy bout between Estrada and Chocolatito, and a lot of people say it was controversial. I had it a draw personally. The second fight, Estrada won, I think, by split decision, but they're gonna have that third fight October, and Joshua Franco's next in line to challenge the winner of that fight, and that's gonna be good. And as far as Andrew Moloney goes, like I said, 115 pounds, super flyweight. They got a good mix at that weight class. This loss doesn't damage his career. He's still one of the top contenders when it comes to super flyweight. He still could challenge other fighters at that weight class for the title. Um, and yeah, he's one of those gatekeepers at super flyweight. He could challenge Jerwin Anakas. Correct me if I'm pronouncing his last name wrong. That's the IBF champion from the Philippines. He could challenge for that belt. And you got Ioka, who's the WBO super flyweight champion. He's fighting next month against Rodriguez for the WBO super flyweight title. He still got a lot of opponents he could fight, and even if it's not for the title at 115 pounds, he could still fight other fighters like Rungasa. He could fight Yafai. He could fight Nietes. It's still good quality opponents out there for him at 115 pounds. And yeah, for those of y'all that's looking for exciting fan-friendly fights, look for the lighter weight classes like the 115 pound, and you're not going to be disappointed. It's very competitive. Anyways, moving on to the next fight, this is in the heavyweight classes. This is at the light heavyweight division. You got the British prospect Joshua Buatsi, who took on Ricards Bolotniks. I'm not good at pronunciating, as y'all could tell by this video. It was a domestic showcase for the prospect Buatsi, but this was one of the toughest tests, if not the toughest test of his career this far. This fight showed his flaws for sure. He was hit hard a few times and had, especially in the earlier rounds, Bolotniks was looking confident after he was finding success and finding his target in Buatsi, because he was landing a lot of punches. Not to take anything away from Buatsi, because he was also landing some heavy shots, the heavier and more crisp punches actually that were doing more damage. But when it comes to a showcase, like this was supposed to be a tomato can crushing for Buatsi, but it didn't really turn out that way because he was actually stunned a couple times and he got tagged a couple times. Just because he was landing the better and heavier and more meaningful punches, it doesn't mean he's not eating and absorbing some heavy shots as well. Especially for a showcase for him, it's supposed to be a blowout for him, but it clearly wasn't. And this not to take nothing away from Bolotniks. He was game. He proved that by far. On paper, he was supposed to be the toughest challenger of Buatsi's career. This was Buatsi's 15th fight. He's only fought 15 times. He's only been pro 4 years, and by far, Bolotniks was the toughest challenge of his career so far. And throughout all, this fight lasted 11 rounds. Buatsi was able to score a knockout win over the game Bolotniks. He knocked him out in the 11th round with a beautiful straight right, and Bolotniks couldn't move out the way. It was perfectly timed. It was perfectly placed, and that called a halt to the bout. And in the 6th round, he dropped Bolotniks as well. And yeah, he improves to 15-0, 13 knockouts. This puts him at number 2 ranked by the WBA and number 3 by the IBF. That's kind of high for a prospect who's only been pro for 4 years and hasn't really fought anybody. But you know how it goes when it comes to these sanctioning bodies, when it comes to titles in the sport, politics, man. But like I said, he not ready to step up in competition with the big dogs like Bivol and Joe Smith and Beterbiev. He's not ready for that. He's not even ready for a Danny Jacobs. He's still got to get his feet wet. I think he's still got to build his buzz up and his name up domestically and still work on a few flaws out there. Because like I said, in this fight, it showed he's very hittable in the fight. He was absorbing punches from a gained Bolotniks, but like I said, if he fights guys like Beterbiev and Bivol, it's not going to look pretty for him if a top level journeyman like Bolotniks, I don't even know if he's a top level journeyman, but this was someone that was supposed to be, a test, but still a showcase, still somewhat of a can question for Buatsi, and it happened to be a competitive fight. And I could tell Buatsi throughout the fight was getting frustrated. In the 8th round, he got a point deducted for a low blow. Then he was getting tagged pretty bad in the fight, and and he also dropped him in the 6th round, I think with like a left hook or something like that. But to speak more positive about Buatsi, like I said, potential is all there. He just got to work on his flaws and his defense, and improvements come with time and focus and hard work. So I'm not doubting him, but hopefully he's not one of those British hype jobs. As we know throughout history, when it comes to top talent, overseas in the UK, and when they cross the water and get to America and step up in competition, they end up choking a lot of the times. And hopefully it's not the case, because I want to see all fighters succeed and reach their full potential. But like I said, he's not ready, and he's definitely not at number 2, number 3, or I would say top 5 when it comes to the light heavyweight division, and that's a pretty dead division. It's not really a highly competitive weight class. The light heavyweight division is, and yeah, but like I said, just sharpen up his game, and have some more local domestic fights, and to build his buzz up, and gain more experience. Then we'll see. Like I said, he's only been pro for 4 years and has only had 15 fights thus far. So let's not get too harsh on him, but let's not get too hyped about him either. And another prospect that we'll be talking about, who fought this past weekend, Vergil Ortiz, who improved to 18-0. He fought. This is a hard ass name to pronounce, but not we all, but the hardcore fans in the boxing community know him. He fought Terrence Crawford before, and he was one of those top prospects, like a Vergil Ortiz and a Joshua Buatsi. Yeah, but this fight, Vergil, this was definitely the toughest fight of his career. He went 8 rounds, and that's the longest amount of rounds that he's competed in. Vergil Ortiz scored a 8th round TKO victory over Egidijus Kavaliauskas. I'm just gonna say his first name, Egidijus Kavaliauskas. We're just gonna call him Egid. All right, y'all know. Y'all know. If y'all watching this video, y'all watch the fight, and y'all know who I'm talking about. So I ain't gotta pronounce his last name and embarrass myself. So bear with me. Yeah, but this fight, Vergil showed flaws. He showed that in this fight, he's an easy target that's hittable for his opponent, especially for someone that really knows what they're doing, and especially for a decent competition, not even top level competition, because, bruh, they've been talking about Vergil Ortiz to be one of the top welterweights since like the beginning of the year, or since like last year. Matter of fact, they've been talking about him being a top welterweight. But if he's getting hit up and tagged up by a decent quality opponent, imagine what a Earl Spence or a Terrence Crawford, a Sean Porter would do. Even if you talk about guys like Danny Garcia or Ugas or Boots Ennis. I think Ennis is a better prospect than Vergil Ortiz, and this is not no disrespect or a knockdown towards Vergil Ortiz at all. I like watching him. He's got a fan friendly, exciting style. He always puts on an entertaining show. However, he's got flaws to work on, like most prospects. And he's only 23 years old. He's got time, and he's got potential to become a top welterweight. He just got to work and sharpen his game. That's all it is. Um, in the second round, especially, it showed a flaw in his defense. Ortiz almost got dropped. It actually could have been called a knockdown because he did drop to the canvas at the end of the second round. Um, it's questionable. They didn't call it a knockdown. It is what it is. But he got stunned by an uppercut that snuck through the high guard of his on the inside. And when you got such a high guard like Ortiz does on the inside, it's hard to see punches coming up from under. And a smart fighter like Edgar, a veteran fighter who was on Ortiz's level at one point, was able to take advantage of that and land that uppercut and then go on a combination of punches. And yeah, he almost dropped him, but to make things better for Ortiz, at the end of the second round, he landed a good body shot to stop Egid from continuing his onslaught. And the third round, Ortiz came back with an answer and actually dropped Kavaliauskas. There we go. Did I say his name kind of correctly? Yeah, Egid. Yeah, he dropped Egid in the third round with a good left hook, power jab. It was a long left hook, power jab. Um, yeah, and he was able to drop him in the third round. Like I said, this was a very fan friendly affair for sure. Hence why Ortiz got such a hype around his name, and he's on such a fast come up because he's got a style that most fans can get behind. And I think he's from Texas because he has all his fights in Texas, and that's a strong boxing state. So he's got a good supporting state, and he's got that fan friendly style. So he's got a hell of potential in the sport for sure. Um, but yeah, throughout the fight, man, Edgar was able to, counter Ortiz's aggressiveness, especially with the right hand and using the fade very well. And that was kind of frustrating Ortiz. And to speak positively on Ortiz's part, because I just spoke positively on Edgar's part, I was impressed by, I'm always impressed by his volume and his work rate. But, he was able to, use his jab to neutralize a well-timing counterpuncher like Egid, and using that jab and his reach and height advantage to walk his opponent down instead of just working off a sheer volume. I was impressed by that, and yeah, man. Um, and the eighth round, that's when Ortiz was able to secure that knockout win. He dropped him 4 times in that round. Um, and the first knockdown, he dropped him, and then he got up. And then the second, after the first knockdown, it was pretty much over. He was, able to score like 3 flash knockdowns. The fourth and final knockdown during the eighth round, that was just like, the end of it all because he sat Egg right on his ass. And yeah, he took advantage. He knew that his opponent was hurt from the first knockdown, and yeah, he worked on the body, then up. Like, I'm impressed by his punch selections as well, and and his killer instances. He's already aggressive. He throws a lot of punches, but when he has his opponent hurt, he knows how to close out the show, and that's one thing that I could give Virgil Ortiz his credit for. He's got that killer instincts, and he was able to close out the show in the eighth round. Mind you, Crawford was able to stop Egid in the ninth round. Ortiz did that a round before in the eighth round, and yeah, even though it was way later, that Ortiz was able to beat Egid. Crawford did that before Ortiz fought him, but Ortiz is on the come up. Crawford's already at the top of the crop, and I bring Crawford up not only because they fought the same opponent, but because Virgil Ortiz Even in his last fight, before this fight, he was calling out Terrence Crawford, and he's not ready for Bud. This clearly showed in the fight. He still, like I said with Joshua Buatsi, he still got to get his feet wet, gain a little more experience, work on his game, work on his flaws, work on his defense, and work on his game plan when it comes to different style fighters. And if you're trying to step up in competition to fight a guy like Bud, you need to gain more experience and work on your game a little more. And he called him out again in the post-fight interview, much like his previous fight. I know he's building his name up. He's on the come up, and with the promotional issue, Terrence Crawford is with Top Rank, and there's talks about him leaving Top Rank after his next fight, and I believe that's like his last fight on his contract with Top Rank, and he's trying to move, maybe become his own promoter or go jump ship to PBC or work with another promoter because PBC has got all the welterweights. They got the island for the welterweight division, and it's been like that with PBC and Top Rank, and most of these boxing promoters, they don't like to collab when it comes to making fights happen for the fans and for the sports sake, because they want to keep everything in house and have all the profits to themselves, and that's hurting the sport, and that's been hurting Crawford's career, especially since he's moved up to 147 after he conquered the junior welterweight division. And since he's been having that issue with making that crossover fight happen with all the welterweights at PBC, that's why Virgil Ortiz's name has been in the mix. But let's be frank, he's only 23. He's only had 18 fights. He's not ready for a top pound for pound champion like Terrence Crawford. He's not ready for Errol Spence. He's not even ready for Boots, and they're still on the come up level together. Him and Boots are like the next up and coming Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. Two complete different styles though, but I think Boots is on another level when it comes to his skills and technicality and talent when it comes to the ring. And Virgil Ortiz, I think he's still, like I said, I think Golden Boys got their money really invested into him. He's like another Ryan Garcia. They know they got a good market for him, and they see a lot of potential in him. So I know they're not gonna want to take such high risk. This was a high risk fight for him stylistically, as Edgar proved, with his counter punching and his ability to neutralize Virgil Ortiz's aggression. And yeah, but I think Virgil Ortiz, he's gonna step up in the competition. He can't go on a downward slope, or they might keep him in the same slope just to be safe. But he still got a lot more tests to go through. The welterweight weight class, I ain't gonna lie, it's not all that as far as that weight class goes. But he's still at the building stages, so I don't think calling out Terrence Crawford is the smartest thing to do for Golden Boy and for Virgil Ortiz. And yeah, let me know what y'all think Virgil Ortiz should do next. Who his potential opponent can be. Um, he's with Golden Boy in the zone. Like I said, the welterweight weight class is, occupied by Al Heyman and PBC. All the top 10, top 10 welterweights are all pretty much with PBC. Maybe he could fight, another undefeated fighter like from, I don't know what Uzbekistan, Abdul Karov. Maybe that's another undefeated fighter, or Stanidis, like Mikey, like I don't know who can Golden Boy line up for Virgil Ortiz to look good and to test him to step up in competition. Who? The welterweight division isn't all that either, unless we're talking about like the top 5, top 6 welterweights. And did I mention? I know I was kind of critical of Joshua Buatsi. I haven't seen much from him, but from what I've seen, to be a top level prospect, is flaws. And for the way Eddie Hearns, how he talked about him, how he could now challenge Beterbiev and Bivol and all them. No, like that's why I was kind of being, critical, harshly critical of him because of what Eddie Hearns said. I know Eddie Hearns is doing his job at promoting his fighters, and he does a very good job of that. In my opinion, I think he's the best promoter in the game right now. And he tries to make the fights that all fans want to see happen. So I don't blame him for hyping this fighter up. But to speak highly of him, I was impressed by his body work, his punch selection, his accuracy, and he's got patience. He just gotta focus on his game at the gym, and then we'll see if he's just a European hype job or not. But like I said, light heavyweight is a weight class that's not deep in competition, so he does have that potential of reaching top championship level at that weight class. But he don't want that with Bivol or Beterbiev. Like I say, he's not ready for any of the top dogs at light heavyweight, just like Virgil Ortiz. And yeah, y'all let me know who y'all think they should fight next. I think they're still gonna, just fight, top level journeymans, if not gatekeepers, at their respective weight classes. But we'll see. And last but not least, I just want to cover Muhammad Ali's grandson's debut. Niko Ali, I think I'm saying his name right. He's a welterweight. He made his pro debut this past Saturday on the undercard for the Joshua Franco Andrew Moloney fight, and he was able to score a first round knockout for his pro debut against a former MMA fighter or something like that. I don't know. I don't know who his opponent is, but this had a lot of hype. Of course, you had the most famous boxer of all time in Muhammad Ali. His grandson is fighting. Of course, there's going to be media hype and coverage because of his blood. And like I said, you can't say too much. You can't judge too much. It's only his first fight, and it ended in the first round knockout. He was able to score a knockout win via landing a good flush straight right hand on his opponent. Now I got his name. I'm seeing on BoxRec right now. Jordan Weeks. That's who he was able to beat in his pro debut. He didn't have a losing record anyway. I think Jordan Weeks. I think he was like 4-1 or whatever it was. But yeah, he looked at kind of nervous closing out his opponent to score that knockout win. But it's only his pro debut. He looked a little too hyped and too nervous and aggressive when closing it out. Kind of forgot to keep his guard up and kind of not on his toes, and his footing was off and his balance was off, and got a little too hyped and aggressive to trying to close out his opponent. But like I said, it's only his first fight. We'll see how he is and how he does in the future. As he's gonna go back to the gym, keep working on his craft, keep working, and keep focused on getting better and sharpening his game. He's only 21, and we'll see in the second fight how he performs and how he does. He's got one hell of a name to live up to and a legacy that he's got to carry. But we'll see how he carries the Ali name. That's a very hard name to carry. So I don't think it's fair for us, the fans, to put that kind of pressure on a young man like him that's trying to do for himself, but has that Ali last name. But we'll just see if he becomes like a superstar like his grandfather was in the sport. Let me know what y'all thoughts were on his performance and all the other fights that I covered that happened this past week. Yeah, y'all let me know y'all opinions, y'all reviews of the fights that happened, and I'm out, y'all. Peace.